prepared for me. When she sailed to my lovely land, she couldn't know or be convinced that our island wrapped in rocks and sand was the gift she'd get from meeting the prince.
More than half the queens of Estolia have been introduced to the king, keeper, and last resort upon the pier at Pirate's End. Perhaps that explains the attention the earliest Estolians gave to the construction of the pier and the road connecting it to the palace on Mount Zacharias. Phoebe Zakarian, The Architecture of Faith.
Percival stepped forward.
Your Majesty,
He said,
may I present my granddaughter Camila d'Estrella and her dear friends Laura Santiago and Charlotte Coleman.
He turned to the young women.
Young ladies, His Majesty Montavious Geronimo Zakarian, Duke, Sovereign, and King of Estolia.
The king first hugged Laura, before pulling Charlotte into his arms for a hug. He grinned down at her and said,
It is a true delight to have you visit our nation. I include you, Camilla. I am very glad you are willing to spend a couple of months visiting us here in Estolia.
When he finished hugging the three young women, the king turned and gestured to a man in religious robes, beckoning him closer.
Young ladies, this is Lazarus Ricardan Zakarian, the keeper of the soul of Estolia, my last resort and first consul. Ricard, this is Charlotte Coleman, Laura Santiago, and of course Camilla d'Estrella.
Once he greeted them, he beckoned forward two young men who looked very much alike.
Young ladies,
The keeper said.
allow me to present Beauregard Excalibur Zakarian, the heir apparent.
He gestured to the young man with almost black hair and grey eyes, then turned with unmistakable warmth to the other.
And my son, Antonio Cordero Zakarian, who will in his time take my place, the true pride of my heart.
He then faced the two young men.
Reggie, Antonio, this is Laura Santiago, Charlotte Coleman, and Camilla d'Estrella.
She tried not to stare at the man whose name was as peculiar as his looks were divine. Beauregard? When he approached and invited her to ride to the palace with him, Charlotte felt a familiar wash of heat flaring across her face. She nodded, and within minutes she sat across from him in the back of a carriage pulled by two white horses. Once the driver pulled away from the line of carriages, Charlotte relaxed and looked across at the man opposite her. He was watching her with an odd expression.
What should I call you?
She asked. He smiled broadly.
Call me Reggie. Do you shorten your name?
I used to be called Lottie. I hated that.
No, you are definitely not a Lottie.
He studied her for a moment.
Tell me what brings you to Estolia.
She explained her father's hypochondria, her hopes for his romantic future, and her father's hopes that she would find an advantageous alliance.
Is that your goal, to find a husband?
She shrugged and looked away.
There are few options for young women in my position in life. Matrimony is one of the few choices available.
She turned back to face him.
But I did not inherit much in the way of looks from my parents.
She was no prize visually. Her hair was the colour of weak tea, her eyes a tawny yellow like a cat's. A servant applying for work at her father's estate had seen those eyes and fled, calling her the spawn of the devil. She was tall and angular, her chin too strong and square. Her governess, before marrying her tutor, had suggested she was beautiful in her own way. He looked her over from face to frame and back to her eyes.
You appear quite attractive to me,
He said with a shrug.
We are having a special ceremony in 4 days, and a celebration ball will follow. Will you do me the honour of partnering me to the ball?
Heat rose in her cheeks again. She nodded.
If you would like. What is the ceremony about?
I'm turning 30 in 5 days. The head of our faith, the keeper, decides when the time is right to hand over the role of last resort to the next generation. He informed me this morning that the ceremony would take place the night before my birthday.
And your cousin will become the last resort?
She asked.
Yes.
His expression grew distant.
My brother drowned when he was 19. Our line of succession places my uncle's firstborn next in line. It will, in many ways, be a bittersweet moment for my mother and father. They will be very happy for me and for my cousin, but it will be hard for them to know that Samuel is not here with us.
What does last resort mean?
She asked.
It is critical that someone be available should the heir apparent.
He tapped his chest.
Prove unable to assume the throne. We hold a ceremony to make him officially my heir until I have a son of my own.
His smile spread.
It is mostly a formality. I do not expect he will have much to do.
Are you already married?
She asked him. He shook his head, his eyes fixed on hers.
No, Charlotte, I'm not yet married.
Not yet? You have someone in mind, though?
Yes, I do.
He said.
Spiraling from her heart, her aura shines, bronze and gold and red radiating light. Triple spiral of color, pure designs, my Kaylee brought to my wondering sight. Her tawny eyes held a wildness I could read, the strength within her jaw was plain.
Reggie stared at the woman whom deity had prepared to keep his soul. By the light of her aura, she was more than he had dared to imagine. The tawny wildness of her eyes promised a passionate bedmate, and he could already picture her with their son growing within her, the flush of pregnancy making her even more radiant. He gave thanks for deity's guidance. The strength of her jaw spoke of strong character. Alongside his own above-average height, their children would be tall as well. She was everything he would have asked for in a lifelong partner. His thoughts winged forward to the night, a few days hence. He looked forward with more anticipation than he had expected to, placing his soul securely within her keeping. It occurred to him that the only way to win her was to ask her outright to consider joining her life with his. If he tried to push her unwillingly into the relationship, he would not find success. He would seek advice from the current, former, and future keepers. Whatever they counseled, he would follow. He looked at the shimmering bronze, gold, and red of her aura, radiating in a spiral from her heart. She was right for him, and he was right for her. He had but to convince her of his sincerity, and she would be his.
When she sailed to my lovely land, she couldn't know or be convinced that our island wrapped in rocks and sand was the gift she'd get from meeting the prince.